Well, things are heating up in New Brunswick much faster than we may be expecting. Data collected by the University of Waterloo projects a dramatic increase in the number of 30 degrees Celsius days in the summer and higher daily maximum temperatures as well, all due to climate change. For example, St. John registered just a couple of days of plus 30-degree temperatures between 2005 and 2010. By 2050, though, there will be 11 days of 30-plus temperatures in the port city, and the maximum daily high will rise from 37 to as much as 41 degrees. In Fredericton, the number of 30-degree-plus days will jump from an average of 8 to 42 each summer, while the maximum daily high will go from 33 degrees to 38 degrees by 2050. Those changes don't just mean sweatier summers. Professor Blair Feltmate of the Intact Centre on Climate Adaptation at the University of Waterloo calls those temperatures the code red of climate change.
There are effectively three manifestations of climate change that are particularly problematic in Canada. Flooding, that you certainly know well in the maritime regions, forest fires or fires in the wildland-urban interface, and then extreme heat. The first two, with floods and fires, when things go wrong, generally speaking, people do not die. There might be 0, 1, 2, 3, or perhaps 4 people die in a floods or fires, which, of course, not to be indelicate, that's 4 people too many. But the numbers are very low. But when things go wrong relative to extreme heat, people can die in high numbers. So, for example, the BC coroner came out with some updated numbers just a couple of days ago in reference to the heat wave in British Columbia last June. 619 people died prematurely due to extreme heat. And then in 2018 in Quebec, 86 people died prematurely due to extreme heat. So I put extreme heat in a whole category of its own, because when things go wrong with extreme heat, people, it's not just expensive.
What can be done to mitigate or just prepare for this, as you say, this inevitability, especially here in New Brunswick?
Number one, we need to launch alerts in cities and or provinces when the heat waves are coming, to give people a heads up that things are going to get hot in the very near future. And as a result of that, people that may have certain health conditions or respiratory conditions, they can make an effort to make sure that they're not out in harm's way, that they're in somewhere that's cool when these extreme heat events hit. We also need to do a lot of work in cities in particular to map where the elderly are, and particularly those people who live alone, because we need to know where they are ahead of the heat wave. Then when the heat alert goes out, we need people checking on them on a regular basis to make sure they're hydrated, that they have a fan, that they have air conditioning. They may need access to a cooling center, but we have to watch out for these individuals. These are people who are particularly vulnerable. And the homeless. We need to effectively need roving teams within systems to check on the homeless to make sure they're hydrated, and perhaps they need help getting to a cooling center. But that's in the behavioral category of preparedness. Within cities, we also need more tree canopy to produce shade, which has obvious benefits from a cooling perspective. And then we need to engage efforts to help particularly cities be cooler by engaging activities such as painting the roofs of factories and condo towers and apartment buildings and so forth white versus what is typically the dark surface of black. When sunlight hits the dark surface of roofs, only about 20% of that energy radiates back up into space, and the rest of the energy stays in the system, contributing to the heat island effect within urban and suburban areas. But if we paint those roofs white, most of that energy will reflect back up into space, helping to keep things just a little bit cooler.
That's Professor Blair Feltmate. He runs the Intact Centre on Climate Change at the University of Waterloo.